Hello besties, my name is Taiwo and you're welcome back to my channel. Today is a sewing with Tyke. On the channel today is a detailed tutorial on how to make this gorgeous shift dress with fabric ruffle details at the sleeve, pockets and buttons. So if this is something you're interested in, then I suggest that you keep watching, okay? So if you're coming across this channel for the very first time, you're welcome. It's so good to have you here. Thank you for stopping by. And to all of my returning subscribers, thank you for always coming back. Thank you so much. Please, if you're yet to subscribe, now is the time to do so so you will not forget, okay? Please hit that subscribe button now and like this video, share it also. Please help it get recommended to as many people as possible. And also, if you're yet to put on the notification bell, please do so to be the first to know when I post new videos, okay? Thank you. Now let's get started. I've gone ahead to fold my fabric into four because I'll be cutting the front and the back together. Now to determine how wide you are going to fold it, since this is a kimono, it is Dolman sleeve, that is the sleeve is cut together with the body. You just want to add your sleeve measurement and your shoulder measurement together plus the allowance. Since we are joining these to a ruffles, the allowance we're adding is going to be half inch. But if you want to hem yours, if you want to fold it, then you might want to add 1 inch allowance. So the shoulder measurement we are working with is 16. 16 divided by 2 is 8. The sleeve length is 7 inches. That is 15 plus half inch sewing allowance. That is 15 and half. So that is how wide it is on fold. Since I have folded it into my desired wideness, I'm just going to cut off the extra fabric that I have there. Now it's time to put in the vertical measurements. The first one I'll be putting is the full length. So the full length that I'm working with is 40. So I came down by 1 inch from the edge of the fabric, from the selvage area of the fabric that way, because I'll still be needing allowance for my shoulder joining. So I came down by 1 inch. That 1 inch, that chalk line that you can see is my start point. So that is where I'm starting my measurement from. So I'm just going to measure out 40 and I'll be adding 2 inches folding allowance to the end. Now, the next vertical measurement to put there is the chest line, or what is called the armhole line. So if the chest line that you're using for your fitted outfit to draft your basic bodies is, for example, 8 inches, then you want to add 2 inches to it. Okay, since this is not fitted, it is kimono, it is cut together, but I'll be making use of 10 and a half. And the next vertical measurement to put now is the half length, that is the neck to the waistline. Then the next one is the neck to the hip, which is 26. So I'm making use of 10 and a half, 16, 26. So I'll go ahead and roll all of that across. So remember I said the width of this fabric is the combination of the shoulder measurement and the sleeve measurement and the allowance. The shoulder measurement, which is 16, the 16 divided by 2, 8. The sleeve length measurement, which is 7 inches, and the allowance for joining it to the ruffles. So now the bust measurement that we're working with today is 38. So I'll go ahead and measure it out there. Then I'll add 2.5 inches. So these 2.5 inches is the desired wideness that I want this shift dress to have. Okay, remember that if we open this up, it means I have added 5 inches to my measurement, so that wideness is enough for me. If you want yours to be wider, you can make it 3 inches, and if you want yours to be not be as wide as the one that I have on, that you saw at the beginning of this video, then you can make it 2 inches. But I think 2 inches is the least that you should add. Okay, but I added 2.5, then I added 1 inch 1 inch sewing allowance. Now on the waistline, on the half length line, I'll go ahead and put in my waist measurement. Again, I'll add 2.5 inches wideness and I'll add 1 inch sewing allowance. Now note that all horizontal measurements, the bust, the waist, and the hip measurements that we're putting here today is divided by 4. Okay, is divided by 4. So I'll go ahead and put in the hip measurement. The hip measurement that we're working with today is 42. That's 10.5 plus 2.5 inch wideness and 1 inch sewing allowance. So I'll go ahead and put the same measurements that I have on my hip line. I'll go ahead and put it on the M, that is on the full length. Okay, then I will just connect all the lines together like so. Now it's time to determine how wide you want the sleeve opening to be. So I want mine to be 17 inches wide. That is 8.5. 17 divided by 2 is 8.5. So this particular measurement, you are dividing it by 2. That is 8.5. Then I'll go ahead and add 1 inch sewing allowance to it. I'll go ahead and add 1 inch sewing allowance to it. Then I'll just connect it to the bust measurement that way. So from the bust line, you can come down by 1 inch to get this curve. Okay, you can come down by 1 inch like so and just make a curve that way. So now we are done with the body of the dress. So before we cut it out, let's draw out the neckline. So my neckline will be a bit wider than the one we have in the style we are creating. I'm making use of 3.5 inches width. Then for the back, I'm making use of 1 inches, and for the front, I'm making use of 3.5. Okay, so if you want yours to be smaller than what I have, then you can make use it 3 by 1. That is 3 inches wide and 1 inches depth for the back. But for the front, I'm making use of 3.5 by 3.5. So I'm just connecting it together like so. And then for the slits at the front, the height of the slits, I'm making use of 3.5. That is for the front. Please do not make the mistake of cutting it together. When it's time to cut it out, you'll see how I'm going to do it. So afterwards, I'll just go ahead and add ½ inch sewing allowance that way to join it. Okay, so you want to don't forget to do this so as not to have shortage in your measurement. So I'll just go ahead and add ½ inch all the way. And now it's time to cut it out. So I'll cut out the back neckline on both the front and the back. I'll cut it out at the shoulder that way. Then I'll go ahead and cut it out at the sides. After which I will separate it. I'll separate the front from the back. Then I will cut out the front neckline on the front only. And I'll also cut through that slit, that 3.5 slit for the front only. So I've gone ahead to cut out a facing for that slit area only. You can see it. I'll be turning off the rest of the neckline with a bias, and also the back neckline with a bias. Now, if you want to turn the whole of your neckline with a facing, then go ahead and cut out a facing for the neckline, the whole of the neckline. But I just went ahead to cut out facing for that slit area that way. Okay. So the first thing I'll be doing now is to sew off the edges of the facing. I'll go ahead and aim the edges of the facing, then come back to fix it to the body of the dress. So now placing the right side of the facing on the right side of the fabric, I'll go ahead and sew over that slit that way. But I like to add paper stay or an ad stay to mine, just to make that place firm, just to give that area a bit of structure. So it is optional. It's optional, but I do like to add it to my own slit. So I'm just going to place the paper stay on it that way, and I'm just going to make my sewing. After which I'm going to notch it and I would iron it out. So during ironing, I'm going to use the M gum to fix the facing onto the fabric. So I'm going to put an M gum in between the facing and the fabric, and I'll show you what I have. And now this is what I have. So the next thing I'll be doing now is to turn the rest of the neckline with the bias, both the front and the back. So I'll just go ahead and start fixing the bias on the front, on the right side of the fabric first, before turning it over to the wrong side. So I'm going to fix the bias now. So the dimension of the pocket is 13 in length and 14 in width. So coming down by 2 inches that way, I'll go ahead and measure out the pocket opening. And the pocket opening is 6.5. So 6.5 or 7 is okay. So I'll go ahead and mark out 1 inch that way. So what I'm going to do is match up that, I'm going to notch that 2 inches where I came down by. Then I'm going to match it up with the waistline of the dress. Then I'm going to start sewing from that 2 inches mark all the way to the 6.5 inches mark that I marked, that I chalked out rather. So I'm just going to sew it like so, making sure that the wrong side of the pocket fabric is facing the right side of the fabric. After which I'll go ahead and notch it on those at the beginning and at the end of my stitch line that way. Then I will flip it over, and this is what we have. So you can go ahead and iron this, or you can top stitch on the pocket fabric, or you can sew over it, over both the pocket fabric and the main fabric. But I'll be stop stitching it now. The next thing to do is to go ahead and fold the pocket that way and just close it off at the lower part and at the upper part. But in order to achieve a neat look, I will be stitching first on the right side before turning it over and stitching on the wrong side. So that is the lower part that way. I'll just go ahead and sew a straight line. But if you want, you can give it a curve that way from the side all the way to the center of the pocket. But I won't be doing that. I'll rather just sew a straight line that way. At the upper part, you want to go ahead and sew a straight line also, or you want to give it a curve. So I'll prefer to give it a curve, because especially it's being attached to a dress and I don't want the upper part dangling, especially at that center area, the center of the pocket. So I'm going to give it a curve this way and I'm just going to sew it. After which I will turn the pocket inside out to the wrong side and I will sew over it again. Doing this, you're sure that the pocket is firm and voila, the pocket is ready. Now that the pocket has been fixed, the next thing to do is to join both the front and the back together at the shoulder using the front seam. That is, I'll be sewing it on the right side first before sewing it on the wrong side to achieve a neat look. Now the next thing to do is to pleat the fabric ruffles at the sleeve end. So you just want to open it up this way. You know that now we've joined it at the shoulder. And the dimension of this, I have 2.5 unfold by 45. So you can see that mine fuller than what we have in the style inspiration. So if you don't want yours to be as full as this, then you can do 2.5 by 30. But make sure that it is unfold. Make sure that the fabric is unfold. Okay. So you just want to notch the center like that way so that the ruffles can be evenly distributed. You match up the center of the fabric that you want to pleat. You match it up with the shoulder line that way, and then you start making your pleats like so. So you want to make sure that you start making the pleat like 2 inches away from the edge, because you don't want to, when you are joining the side, you don't want your pleats to fall in between the joining of the sides. And now this is what we have. So here's another thing I want you to take note of. When you are making the ruffles for the second side, you want to make sure that you alternate the way you make the ruffles, because if you don't, by the time you open it up, I'm just showing you with fixing it with a pin right now. By the time you open it up, you would notice that the ruffles is not in the same direction. So you can see that this one that we made earlier, the ruffles is pointing downwards while this is pointing upwards. So you want to take note of that and make sure that you check it and see that they are facing the same direction before you finally stitch the second one. So if you check the way I'm making this plate, you would see that it is different from the way I did the other side. So now just quickly show you. You can see that it's pointing downwards now, and it's matching up with the second side. They are both in the same direction. So you just want to take note of that, okay? After which you will be aiming the lower part of the dress. Next thing to do is to join it at the sides with 1 inch. Okay, so you want to be careful not to sew over your pocket opening. Keep using your hand to feel it. Do not sew over your pocket opening. After which, I'll just decide which button to fix, and voila, we are
That
done.
will be all for today. Thank you for watching. Thank you for staying to the end. So I hope that you enjoy this tutorial. I hope that you gain value from it. I hope that you learned one or two things. If your answer to all of this is yes, then please like this video, share it, leave a comment for me, engage. Let me know what you think, okay? And you can also connect with me on my Instagram page at tyke_tyke. And if you're yet to subscribe, please do not leave without doing so. Thank you, and see you in my next video.